So let's go to the panelists. Margie, what's really your definition of the carbon economy?
And do you want us to introduce ourselves first
Yeah,
a little bit?
yeah,
okay, because I don't think we took the chance to do that.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I mean, this is Margie.
I'm Margie, with the CEO with the Bonneville Environmental Foundation, and we're a nonprofit environmental group that promotes renewable energy, energy education, as well as watershed restoration. And our goal is to provide solutions so that everyone can participate in being a good steward of the planet. And the three retail products that we sell, therefore, are renewable energy certificates, carbon offsets, as well as water restoration certificates. So that's kind of the business we're in. That's part of our mission, and that's what we do. Do you want them to introduce, or should I answer your question on the carbon economy?
Let's just go with the question, too.
Okay. So I was intrigued because, to me, I looked at the carbon economy title as very broad. The United States is a huge emitter of carbon, and the base root of that issue is energy use, fossil fuel energy use. And guess what? Fossil fuel energy use is also the DNA and root of our economy. Think about energy. If energy prices go up when when gasoline went up $1 a gallon, what happened to your personal habits? What happened to your business profits? What happened to the economy in general? When energy goes away, have you ever been in a brownout or a blackout? What happens to the economy, to the grocery store that loses their ice cream, to the businesses that have to shut down their computers?
My email.
Your email, you go crazy. What happens when energy production goes bad? BP oil spill. The economy is driven entirely, it's the DNA of the economy is energy. The United States has 5% of the population and 25% of the carbon emissions globally. So I think even though you have to solve a global problem globally, the United States has a duty and can move forward into a lower carbon economy. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. In terms of the carbon market, which I think you were talking about, this trading of the carbon offsets, I would say to get out of the high carbon economy that we're in, we need to conserve. We need to reduce our use it more wisely, and be smart about it. We need to promote renewable energy. Absolutely, we have got to get off the oil addiction. And number three, then, what you can't reduce, you offset. And that's when you finally end up in the offset market. So I do think it's a part of the solution, but it is by no means the entire solution to getting the United States into a low-carbon future.
And that's what we've been hearing all along. I mean, whether it be the oil spill panel, whether it be the commentary from the other sessions about just what's going on with fossil fuels. And everybody in this audience is, I think, on the same wavelength in terms of a mindset and attitude and concepts. And Hunter, why don't you
go to Tom first, because otherwise I'll steal his line.
Oh, okay.
About the carbon economy.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess all I said, well, Tom Rawls, I'm with Native Energy, and the simple version is we sell carbon offsets primarily to companies that don't have any obligation under law or regulation to manage or address their carbon footprint, but they're trying to do something to lighten their footprint. So these are voluntary purchases of carbon reductions that they make. So that's what we do. The longer version is we particularly focus on smaller projects that have hit a financial barrier. They can't get developed, these projects, that would reduce greenhouse gas pollution. And we have a model whereby we buy the carbon reductions that will occur. We bring that money, we pay that money to the developer. Our, in a sense, financing gets that project over the hurdle, up and running. We don't take an ownership stake. We get our share out of the offsets, carbon reductions, which we then sell. All the projects we work with are projects, again, that there's no requirement for these projects to be put in place. The pollution that they cause is not regulated. So to stop that, methane, CO2, whatever it may be, is all over and above what you would get under a regulatory scheme. So it's important to understand for us in the voluntary market that everything we do goes beyond what would happen, or what will happen, I will say, optimistically, what will happen when we go to a carbon-regulated environment. The carbon economy is the economy we have today. It is a carbon-based economy. As Margie was saying, coal, oil, that's what powers us, that's what moves us. And so what we really are talking about is the post-carbon economy. How do we get to the post-carbon economy? And one of the things we do is help to put in place projects that are examples of what that post-carbon economy would look like.
Yeah.
I'll just make one quick observation. Because we're in the offset world, and offsets are, they can be confusing for some people, they're very problematic. I'll make 2 points. One is the voluntary offsets we do. They're over and above and additional to anything in the cap and trade scheme that you talk about. So what we do isn't the same as what happens under regulation. Two, a point that, this is something I feel strongly about, I think the cap and trade itself is not bad. I think it's all a question of how do you do it. And if you have a scheme where the cap is soft, then not much happens. But that's not because cap and trade doesn't work. That's because your regulatory threshold has been set so high that not much happens. So in the Northeast, we have the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. It's a cap in the Northeast. In the U.S., there's a cap and trade in place for utility for generators. It's a very soft cap. The price on carbon is about $2. It's not enough to go and push us to a post-carbon economy. It's done a number of good things, which we could talk about if you're interested. But so to get to the post-carbon economy, you do need what we've heard about, this price on carbon. Carbon is a pollutant. You need a price on it. That then, because we do live in a market economy, will drive the new sorts of projects, initiatives, et cetera, we need so that we get to that post-carbon economy. So cap and trade itself is not a bad thing. It's all, in my view, in how you structure it.
So did he steal your line?
You still get to use the line.
Or can you still use
No,
it?
he
did.
he used his line.
Okay, good. So,
It was memorable, too.
No, that the carbon economy is what we have today.
Yeah.
We are a carbon economy. We're a carbon economy in collapse. This country borrows something like $2 billion a day to buy imported oil, largely we borrow it from the Chinese and the sovereign wealth funds of the Middle East to buy imported oil from the sovereign wealth funds of the Middle East in competition with the Chinese. And we wonder why we had an economic collapse. If you like the economic collapse, just party on, because this is what we're going to have again and again and again and again. Don't take my word for it. Sir John Beddington, chief scientist of the UK, Jonathan Porritt, a lot of people who are looking at the dynamics of the economy that we have today. If we do business as usual, get used to collapse, because that's the regime we're going to be in. Now, this was prior to BP. Notice in the last 2 or 3 months the number of surprises that have hit us. Everything from the flash crash to really weird weather the world around, to now BP, to a volcano that shut down European aviation. There are about 6 or 8.
sinkhole in Guatemala.
Yeah. What might be called black swans, earthquakes everywhere.
Yeah.
Did Nostradamus predict this?
I don't know. I haven't read Nostradamus. But there are geologists now saying that the melting that is adding to the weight of the oceans could be a factor in causing these earthquakes. And if you really want to get dire about it, the worst case projections of what could happen in the Gulf are very scary, including, well, apparently what is known, there's fissures in the Gulf floor. There are now predictions of the possibility of an eruption, an explosion of the natural gas. Most of what's coming out is natural gas. And several things could happen. One, you put a lot of natural gas in oceans, buoyancy goes away, boats sink. This may be what drove the loss of boats in the Bermuda Triangle. The damn thing explodes. I've been talking with several people, some of whom claim they know what they're talking about, have been down in the Gulf, are talking to the people there, that it's not a question of whether, it's a question of when. Now, the thing explodes. Tsunami. What's the mean height of land in Florida? What happens to our economy? You wipe out the whole population of the Gulf Coast? That would be a black swan. And when I first heard this stuff, I said to the old boy who was telling me this, who's been trying to sell his water treatment equipment down in Florida, in the Gulf, Nah, you know what? I don't believe you. You're a nice guy. You look to be sober. I don't believe you. Went home and got on the web, and whoa, sure damn enough, there are actually half the websites, admittedly, are the websites that announce the next landing of aliens. But there are some websites by some pretty reputable people saying this is really a possibility. And we don't even know what the surprises that are going to come at us out of this economy that we have now. What we do know is that it's bankrupting us, it's poisoning us, it's wholly unsustainable, it's ruining the economies of our communities, and furthermore, what we do know is that these solutions, like changing out these goddamn light bulbs that are Xcel Energy driven by coal. Any of you who live here in Boulder, do not renew the goddamn Xcel franchise. We do know that doing that, fixing up our houses, fixing up our cars, is the route to prosperity. It is the only known route to prosperity. It's the only thing that will create enough jobs. And every study that has been done, there are now 20-some state-by-state studies. Florida would add $25 billion to the state economy, fully implementing AB 32, the Republican governor's proposed cap on carbon in California. $76 billion to the state economy and 400,000 new jobs. So take your pick. You can have the carbon economy we have today, or we can have a Green New Deal, unleashing the new energy economy, the post-carbon economy. And think about it this way. This is from Janine Benyus. Nature does not define carbon as the world's greatest pollutant, does not define CO2 as the world's greatest pollutant. It is the basic building block of life. What have we done wrong in structuring our economy that has made the basic building block of life into the world's greatest pollutant? Nature uses carbon. Seashells calcify using seawater. Coral reefs build structural material out of CO2 and seawater. Trees suck in CO2 and build their trunks. It's only us that are so out of sync with how nature lives that we've caused this catastrophe.
That's something that I think, in terms of segueing into what we really want to talk about, is you know, there's, in particular with the oil spill, we feel so helpless. So let's talk about some of the things in terms of what we can do, and more kind of in the educational aspect, because there's a lot of confusion around the, you know, what a carbon offset is.